Bitcoin right now forming a big tiny bust continuation pattern, or are the bulls about to experience a big, extremely sticky dump? Right now the price of Bitcoin still sits significantly above 30,000 US dollars, but at this point there's a case to be made for both sides, and we're going to be taking a look at that because Bitcoin is currently right around, at the time of recording this, around $34,000. But the bigger thing is, after spending pretty much like half of the entire year of 2023 between 25K and 30K, I don't think we're going to be stuck in a range for long. I don't think we're immediately busting up to where we are right now and just going to trade sideways here. I think that there's going to be some increased volatility, and it's absolutely huge. And currently as well, my Bitcoin long position is up 17,000 US dollars in profit, and my ETH long position is up 6,000 US dollars in profit, and links are in the description if you're interested in signing up. So Bitcoin definitely in a very big place here. Every time in the past that I've seen a candle that looks like this, where we go very straight up and vertical, usually you want to be cautious there. However, if we're truly in the beginning of a bull market, that is when it's different, because if you're skeptical right now of Bitcoin having a pullback, that's normal, and that's probably healthy, and that's a smart way to be thinking about this. And that's kind of even what I'm leaning towards at this very moment. However, you have to change that mindset if, in fact, we're in the very beginning parts of a bull market. If this was like 2 months from now, if we were in like December or even January, I would be extremely confident that we were just going to be busting up, down, left, and right, period. Because I think over the next 2 to 3 months, it's going to be, if we're not already in this straight bustage only mode, I would be shocked. As the halving is only, again, a couple months away. By January, it'll be pretty much within like a month or two. And I think Bitcoin will be much higher by then than it is now. So, take that for what it's worth. But, at this very second, clearly on the short term, this is the hourly chart, you can see there is a consolidation pattern where we're trading, potentially a bull flag, potentially continuation. Potentially we see this bust up to 36, 37K before having any pullback. But the main thing that I want to talk about first is that there will be a pullback. But ultimately, what does that mean? Well, is it that serious? No, I don't think so really. Because every single bust we've seen of 2023 has had a pullback, right? And then it's continued to gone up. And actually, let's just extend this level. So, okay, first time I'm actually even just looking at this. This is interesting as well. We spent the entirety of 2023 up until August finding support on this trend line, and now that's where we're seeing resistance. So this is actually very interesting. If we get above this, we could actually see further continuation. But if we get rejected here in the short term, that's absolutely, that's very likely. That's absolutely a possibility. So keep that in mind. I'm very, very, very bullish over the next couple of months, but that doesn't mean we need to be bullish every single second. But, honestly, the way this price action is developing, the way yesterday we saw that, the iShares IBTC ticker was removed, and then the ticker was added again, and price didn't really care that much. People are saying that's the only reason Bitcoin's pumping. I don't think so at all. I think Bitcoin 1 was going to start busting up regardless. I think the bears that are saying the only reason Bitcoin pumped was because of like the Bitcoin spot ETF fake news and then all of the hype around it, I think that absolutely has maybe added a little bit, definitely to the excitement. But I think ultimately the price was going to do exactly what it's been doing so far the entirety of 2023, which was on the macro have moves to the upside. Because we're in the beginning stages of a bull market, and you cannot convince me otherwise. It takes so much. I personally think it takes a lot of denial to think we're not in the beginning stages of a bull market. But let's take a look at this first before we continue with the charts. Will Clemente talking about Glassnode, where 600,000 more Bitcoin have not moved in 10 plus years than there are on exchanges. People have been holding through the entire bear market, and you think they're all of a sudden going to start selling in mass because we're getting closer to the halving? No, at this point, so many of those people that have held over the last 2 years in the bear market understand the cycles, and they understand we're about to head into a bull market. So if you think that majority of Bitcoin holders are about to part ways with their crypto, you're completely out of your mind. It's the exact opposite. People are ready for price appreciation, and people are ready for a bull market. Bitcoin Archive also pointing out the first Bitcoin spot ETF will be approved between October and March, says the near over $500 billion fund manager AB Bernstein. Just more spot ETF news. Again, I think a spot ETF, whether it happens tomorrow or 3-4 months from now, inevitable anyway. Mustache El Crypto Prof on Twitter also highlighting that the last 2 times when USDT dominance has clearly broken the EMA 50 line to the downside, we've seen a strong rally in altcoins. It happened in the spring as well as autumn of 2021, and we saw many 20 to 50x gains in altcoins. He's saying this has just now happened again, and he's also stating that the Bitcoin top in 2024 will be very likely as opposed to 2025. I agree as well. There's a lot of people that have been saying they think that the Bitcoin top will be in 2025. I don't necessarily think, I think it could come earlier than that. But again, we have to think back to the last bull market where everybody was saying that the Bitcoin top had to be a blow-off top. It had to be like it was in the past, where we saw it go up and then immediately get rejected. But you see, we traded sideways, put in a low, and then we actually did have a slightly higher high, though. And then that was more so a blow-off top. So, but it did not go, like, it barely went any higher than the original top back in March of 2020 and, like, the first half of 2021. And then it kind of tipped it, the very, very top of it, the end of 2021, and then it kind of blew off to the downside. So this cycle was kind of an anomaly, which is why a lot of people got caught off guard by it, because so many people were convinced after we started rallying here, this is when we were going to go to 100K and then do a blow off top, but we didn't do that. So I think the same thing is going to be happening this time. I think it's going to catch people off guard, and I think that the top will come sooner than people are expecting, whereas right now people expect 2025. Will Clemente also pointing out that the Bitcoin CME futures yesterday traded the most volume they've done out of the entirety of 2023 by far, stating that traditional finance is back trading Bitcoin. And this move has already shown that at the very least, the interest is back. Now, today we have the US dollar index still not doing much, still trading sideways, and as well, the stock market actually looking kind of poor, not doing good. If we actually look at the SPX, we're still trying to hold on to 4,200. If we ultimately bounce here, I think that makes sense. Look at all of the resistance that we faced here through the entirety of 2022 and the first half of 2023 as well. It's a very big level of resistance. So, but if we take a zoom out on Bitcoin's chart, this looks like a continued breakout of this 2-year falling wedge. It's if you zoom out, like let's say this is what happens. Well, let's just kind of illustrate this a little better maybe. Let's say this is what the chart currently looks like. Let's say this is what happens, and then we have a top sometime in 2024, and it does something like this, where we go up to 100K, or some people are saying, 150, 200K, something like that. And then let's say we, with traditional finance, if they really put trillions into Bitcoin, I don't know how this would really, and nobody does because it's never happened. Nobody would know how this would actually affect the cycles. But let's say that something like this did happen and we have a top towards the end of 2024 or something like that. This would be a totally valid 2+ year long falling wedge that broke out, just like the 2+ year long symmetrical triangle broke out in the last bear to bull market. Right? So on a macro, even though this is a lot of sideways in the short term, on the long term, it's just a breakout, but it's just such a big pattern that it takes so much time. Looking at Bitcoin on the 15-day chart as well, momentum is still looking good. I think, especially on the 30-day chart, we have increased momentum, as we talked about, ever since May of 2023. It's been pretty clear Bitcoin has really switched gears from bearish only to almost bullish only. The main thing, I still think we're going to get a retest of 30K. So always, at some point, always be aware of this. We need to. I think we're going to need to. This is like, yeah, it's just massive. I talk about it so much. This, again, I think that we're running into resistance here. This will be interesting to see if we can actually pop above this, or if it becomes resistance, if we can pop above this and then make this support instead. We have a lot of, I actually want to look at the weekly crosses. And it's like, again, we have that short-term move. Weekly cross is loading. I would say about 2 or so weeks away if we get continued price trading above 32 and 30K specifically as well. We will get a bullish cross on the weekly with the 50 going back above the 200 day, which is even considered like a bull market by some standards. Yeah, ultimately as well, 200 day is in yellow here. The 50 day is creeping up. We just had the 21 day cross above that. 50 day is coming pretty close, probably within the next couple of days if we maintain any of the levels that we've captured over the last couple of days, as long as we stay above like $32,000 per Bitcoin. But ultimately, I kind of want to just pick a chart to illustrate. I guess this is probably the best one. But realistically, right here, January, actually this was December of 2022, it has been, a switch has flipped. Just like a switch flipped back in November of 2021, November of 2022, a switch flipped. And it was bearish only, and now it's bullish only. There will be pullbacks, but I mean, I honestly just want maybe somebody to explain to me an actual logical, not emotional, biased explanation of how people think we're actually going to do something like this and set new lows. Explain that to me. If there was like an actual argument that made sense, I would have no problem like entertaining that and thinking of it as realistic. And I just I need some explanation of how people think that's possible. It just doesn't make sense. And even if I try to play play it in my head of like, okay, this has to be what happens, let me try and think of reasons of how it does that, I'm still struggling to think of any way that makes any sense. I think at this point, the only people that think that that's possible are people that are farming negative price action, like farming bearish content, because that's how they survive. People like to make fun of bullish people by saying they're always bullish. Well, you have to realize there are people that are only ever bearish, period, no matter what, as well. We could go up to $100,000 and people will still be out there saying, this is all just a bull trap. We're actually going to 3K. You think I'm joking or exaggerating, but no, there's actually like a decent amount of people that are going to be saying that. I watched it happen 4 years ago in the last cycle. When we were at 4K in the crash back in March of 2020, and we crashed down to like 3 and 4K, those people were saying we're going below $1,000. And then we went up to 70,000 over like the next year and a half or so. And the whole time they were saying bull trap, bull trap, bull trap, bull trap. So you have to understand, there are people that you're going to be watching and seeing tweets about or whatever, all of this, that are going to be telling you the entire way, it's a bull trap, it's a bull trap. It is very common. In fact, you will watch it the entire bull market. So just keep that in mind. Because if you think logic exists in that type of thinking, it does not. All logic is removed. No matter what happens, they'll be saying, we're actually going to 3K. Watch, it's a bull trap, it's a bull trap. And it's very unfortunate because if you're interested in crypto and you get suckered into that, you can miss an entire bull run. Absolutely. And people have. And take advantage of a massive sign up and deposit bonus if you're interested in trading with Phemex and BitGet below. Specifically, currently I'm up, what is this? Yeah, I guess a combined $23,000 in profit between Bitcoin and ETH trades. If you're interested, signing up with Phemex, you also earn free XPT when you trade anything. It takes 30 seconds to sign up. Without any further ado,